So let's go back, 2002, I was a tennis director. I had, I think at least 14 top-ranked kids in a clinic. Back then, we didn't call it academies. Now, like every high school has an academy, but back then it was a clinic. In this clinic, we had a bunch of top kids. Like Sam Corey was in this class. But here's what we did. We took the clinic, and we were doing all old school training. We did warm-up mini tennis, groove back and forth cross court, groove back and forth down the line, groove back and forth. Is that playing catch or keep away? Just catch, right? Get to groove a little bit, I got a bit, but it's not that meaningful in the art of winning. The art of winning means you have to be good at changing the incoming outgoing angle. It's incident reflected angles. You have to be good at incident reflected angles in matches. So we took this whole idea and I go, man, we're doing it wrong. We're doing something wrong. And so I took this group, I took 6 kids, and we kept on training the old school way. And we did this for 6 weeks. The other 6 kids, we only did their top 7 patterns. We didn't let them rally to each other at all. No rallying, only rehearse top 7 patterns. After 6 weeks, the team that was doing only patterns killed the other group, like 6 matches in a row. And then they went on a tear. They started winning all these sectionals and national titles because they were working on how to win a match. They're working on keep away. So let's go through the top 7 you can design with your athletes. Number 1 is you want your player to write down their favorite serve pattern with the deuce side. So that's their serve and then shot. Andre Agassi called his favorite the double backhand pattern. He hit a big kicker down the tee to the backhand, and then he hit the next ball over to the backhand corner. Okay? Give the opponent 2 backhands. Double backhand. Number 2, your athlete's favorite serve pattern to the outside. I took some top-ranked juniors to Indian Wells a couple years ago, and we were charting this stuff. So Rafa Nadal was playing Ryan Harrison. On the ad side, Rafa hit a slow slice lefty serve, and then inside out forehand. He did that pattern 84% of the time on the outside. 84%. He knew he was going to do it. Ryan knew he was going to do it. Everybody in the stadium knew he was going to do it. But Ryan didn't have the goods to hit a quality backhand. So it worked. So I want you kids to understand that they have to develop their script. Their script is their top 7 patterns. Their script is what they do well. This is their game. So when you say to your kid, look, Joey, play your game. This is what we mean. Do what you do best. Do what you've been rehearsing. Don't just go rogue and invent patterns and plays. Don't go brain dead and be reactive. Be proactive. Know your game. So number 3, top service pattern and position when you're returning serve. So like Rafa might play 10 feet back and hit high and heavy. We might have other players just match the ball speed from the baseline. Know who you are. Number 4 is top service return patterns and plays from the second serve. Where do they stand? What do they do? Your kids have to know their script. It's not our job just to give them balls and let them rally to each other. That's not going to cut it anymore. They got to be smarter. Because I got to tell you, I'm lucky I get to coach all around the world, and in different countries they're doing it smarter. And that's why they're getting way ahead of us in other countries. They're not just playing catch, they're working on keep away. I just saw an interview with Carlos Moya, who's now coaching Rafa, and he says we're no longer rallying, we're only doing patterns. We're doing 1-2 ball patterns, he and Rafa. Totally different.
So if you're doing more patterns now, are you doing more feeding? Because obviously one person's working on the pattern, the other person.
It could be more feeding or just be creative and do live ball. You can have one kid work on their serve pattern, the other one's working on their return pattern, and they can even do more point play. They can do live ball point play, but once they get a short ball, now they have to actually plug in the next one, which is their, number 6 is their top short ball option on this, but then they can run that. But try to be creative with live ball. I like live ball if the kids are pretty good with fundamentals. One of the things I see is I think we stay on fundamentals too long. So we'll talk about that, Jay, a little bit more too in a sec. Let's think about number 4, top return patterns. On the side, make a little note. I want you to try to keep this in mind. There are positive and negative mega points. big points, game points. Because as coaches, we always say, this is a big point, focus. But what's the difference between a positive game point and a negative game point? As coaches, we know if your kid's up 40-love, 40-15, positive mega point, they can stand up on a second serve, be more offense, right? But what if it's a negative mega point? They're down 40-love. Should they try to rip it on the line, down 40-love? No. So you got to be aware of not every game point is equal. You know what I mean? That's our job, I think, as high-performance coaches. All right, number 5, top rally patterns to get the opponent vulnerable. I was doing a series of clinics in Barcelona, Spain, and here's the pattern that they were doing when I got there. At 8 courts, in all 8 courts, they would give the athletes a deep ball. The athlete would hit a high and heavy to the backhand, push the other person back, and then come in and crush the short ball. So their rally pattern to get the opponent vulnerable is high and heavy to the backhand. Great for junior tennis. Try not to only do the old school skin the net. That's not even that smart. That's kind of a myth. Hitting it low and hard means the ball is going to land around the service line, bounce up waist level right to the other person's primary strike zone, exactly where they want it. You'd rather have the opponents hitting balls up here. But speaking of the Spanish, you know what they called that drill when I asked them? The drill's called How to Beat the Americans. That's the name of the drill. How to Beat the Americans. Just high and heavy, take it out of our strike zone, push it back.
It's working.
It's working. It is working, huh? All right, number 6, we're finishing up our top 7. Favorite short ball option. Make a little list on the side. Here's the 4 short ball options. And your kids have to know what they're good at. Number 1, crush a winner. I get a short ball and I crush it down the line. That's what I do. Number 2, approach shot volley. I like to the approach deep to the backhand and split that ball. Number 3, remember, it depends on their brain type, remember. Number 3, I like to roll the side door. I don't want to volley yet, so I'm going to roll the short angle, stay back, and juice my next ground stroke. And the 4th one is drop shot. I'm going to bring that toed in and pass it in a long. Different kids have different strengths and weaknesses, right? But I just want them to know. How many coaches do high school ball? Yeah, I don't know. I take my hat off to you guys because you have like 20, 30 kids and you have so little time. It's hard to teach them every tool. But if they know their top 7, at least they're doing what they're good at. So think about this. Every match that they lose 6-4, 6-4, they'll win 4-4 if they're doing their top 7. Because it's only a matter of 5 or 6 points when you're losing 6-4, 6-4. If you're doing what you're good at on big points, you're going to win more matches. Do what you're great at on big points. In my opinion, that's great. And I got to tell you, it's huge in college. This last 3 months, I've worked with 4 top college teams. Not one college team was even doing top 7 patterns. They're just kidding. And so I think it's big. All right, so number 7 is your top net rushing patterns. A lot of younger girls like moon ball approach to swing volley because they don't have a speeding bullet coming out their head. In California, the best coaches, I know you guys are doing this, we start players volleying. We don't start players doing ground strokes. The first 2 weeks of lessons, they're all volleying because we want their first love to be net. And it makes sense, volley. Do you guys do that still? Yeah, volley, right? We want them to be happy. We want them to want it. So, anyway, the top net rushing pattern. You got that last thing? All right.
It's a great question. It's one that I don't know there's an answer to, because I think every kid is individual, and I think you have to, that's what, in Stevie's case, Craig Boynton is the coach, and I think that's Craig's main job now is to make sure that Stevie still thinks he can play out class. And the tricky part comes when you lose first, second round 3 weeks in a row.
I like that. You still think you can play after you do it wrong.
Right, and I think, Stevie's, some of you may have seen our movie on Tennis Channel, the family movie. The story is, I'll try not to cry this time, I usually cry when I tell a story. He called me after 3 straight weeks, first round loss. said, Dad, I'm coming home, I'm not good enough. And I said, well, you are good enough, but these guys are good too. And you just got to get through it. And luckily, he came home, rode his bike on the beach for a few weeks, went back out. Ended up doing okay, and he's here representing America. So the tricky thing is, again, it's balance. Winning doesn't mean you're, the thing that I tell my parents is, when your kid wins, what does every parent think when their kid wins?
But they're the best
The
in
kid's
the
really
world.
good. And I go, what do you think when your kid lost? And I said, terrible. I said, well, just so you know, your kid's the exact same level he was an hour and a half ago. But he won or he lost. His level didn't change. He's still the same player. And again, so for me, I try to keep everything in perspective. The story I've used, I know Frank Chuck's probably sick of hearing this, but Stevie came home and was really upset. Right? It was right at the end of the season, so he's coming home for the Christmas break, you know, the winter break anyway. I said, Stevie, do you think Thomas Burditch is bad? He goes, he's number 5 in the world. I go, yeah, well, let's look up his record. He had 25 losses that year. So we looked at Stevie's record, and he had 25 losses. And one tournament win on the challenger level. I go, so Burditch did win a tournament this year. You won one on the challenger level. But you both lost 25 times. He just loses on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You lose on Tuesday and Wednesday. You made about $2 million money. But that really seemed to help. Because again, he would never think that Thomas Burditch or whoever isn't a good player. But other than Roger Ruff and Nadal and Djokovic, everybody loses 25, 26, 27 times. Right? It's just, but it's hard. And the problem is everybody at that level didn't lose until they got to that level. That's why they're at that level. They never lost.
So how did Stevie adjust to that? Because in college, in his senior year, he didn't lose a match, won NCAA.
Yeah, that story's well documented. It's a little misleading because his junior and his senior year, he did not lose a match. He ended up winning 72 matches in a row. And people like to say, well, that was terrible. And I said, well, you guys remember, he lost all the time because he was playing road tournaments. So he was losing. However, it wasn't enough losing for him. So then when he went on tour, well, if you actually go back, he came out on tour, he was about 350 in college. So we were right in the challengers. He won one of his first challengers he played. He got to a top 100 by the end of his first 6 months. He turned pro in July. He was top 100 in January. Then he had to defend. Then his stress level went up. Now he's defending. He lost first round of every tournament he played that he did well at the year before. And next thing you know, he's 172. Don't quote me on that. He's 170 something. And that's from all the negativity and I'm not good enough to come out. Well, it was his first time to defend. It was his first time. Now remember, none of the coaches knew who he was. Now they all know how to beat him. And it took back end of it. That's the back end not that bad, but whatever. So the level of stress went up. Losing went up. It hurt him deeper. And Peter Smith, his college coach, and I thought. So then we had to sit and talk to him and explain to him they were still good. And going back to his question, how tricky is that to tell your player you're good after a loss? You have to find a way to make him still believe in himself. So again, it's the inspiration thing. When Stevie won Nottingham last year right before Wimbledon, I think during that week he played 6 tiebreakers and he won all 6. At the beginning of the year, he played 6, 7 times, he lost every one. So I asked him about it. His comment was, yeah, I get the tiebreaker. Oh, well, I wonder how I'm going to screw this one up. And then in Nottingham, he goes, I'm going to get through this one. What a thought. What a thought. There you go. How's that for manager for coaching? It's a different outlook. So. And then the outcome is different. So winning Nottingham, we had to ride a train. We had to get right on a train, get back to Wimbledon. He had to play in 2 days at Wimbledon. It was really interesting, him saying, this validates all that he's done. So again, I would have known that here he's questioning, am I training enough? Am I training too much? Am I doing too much physical? Am I not doing enough tennis? Because if you don't win, you're not sure what you're doing right. Winning then said, okay, I'm doing it right. Now he thinks he can play again. And then he got to the 4th round and played Roger at the 4th round, and then he went to the Olympics. Should have beat Murray. in the quarters. He was up 4-3, 30 left, serving in the third. I'm not over yet. Someday I'll do therapy, I'll go over that. He missed that forehand, but I just, yeah, I'm over.